Today we are going to discuss about the topic of interpersonal communication. Start with the introduction. Basically, interpersonal communication, exchange of information between two or more people. It is also an area of research that seeks to understand how humans are verbal and non-verbal cues to accomplish a number of personal and rational goals. Interpersonal communication also refers to the entire process and practice of exchanging ideas, information, and even emotional experiences that can be shared between people. Next, basically in the interpersonal communication, research addresses at least 6 categories of inquiry, that is, how humans adjust and adapt their verbal communication and non-verbal communication during face-to-face communication, how messages are produced, how uncertainty influences behavior and information management strategies, deception communication, rational dialectics, and social interactions that are mediated by technology. Although interpersonal communication is most often between pairs of individuals, it can also be extended to include small intimate groups such as the family. Interpersonal communication can take place in face-to-face setting as well as through platforms such as social media. The study of interpersonal communication addresses a variety of elements and uses both quantitative, social scientific methods and qualitative methods. Next, the training program overview. Basically, training program overview is considered that training and development refers to programs designed to help improve process and performance of both the individual employees and the organization as a whole. A training program allows you to overcome those weaknesses by strengthening those skills of each employee. In this, we have some kind of knowledge about the communication, their effectiveness in this, because demonstrate their skill to communicate around different work cultures, employee methods in this for empathy and active listening, constructively manage criticism and appropriately respond to it, handle different behavioral cycles and personality types among individuals, build a positive connection by building a better rapport, use the tools of influence and persuasion while communicating and trading with others. Analysis and build upon self-interpersonal skills and style, increase self-confidence in handling dispute and criticism in difficult settings, handle with influence awkward situations in a graceful manner, make to improve on your body language, communication and listening skills, learn to manage stress and stressful work conditions and situations, understanding the why and how of people behaving and reacting to others. Demonstrate a great level of personal control and increased results. Analysis and build upon self-interpersonal skills and style. In this, we can also include defining effective interpersonal communication, mastering the interpersonal communication process, understanding and applying non-verbal communication, applying the primary communication skills, understanding the characteristics of interpersonal style, relationship building skills and strategy, building trust and credibility, building and applying reliance, and understanding and practicing assertiveness strategies. Next, defining effective communication. Effective communication is that kind of communication. In this, a people can attract toward us. Effective communication is about more than just exchanging information. It's about understanding the emotion and intentions behind the information, as well as being able to clearly convey a message. You need to also listen in a way that gains the full meaning of what's being said and makes the other person feel heard and understood. Effective communication sounds like it should be instinctive, but all too often when we try to communicate with others, something goes astray. We say one thing, the other person hears something else, and misunderstandings, fluctuations, and conflicts ensure. This can cause problems in your home, school, and work relationships. For many of us, communicating more clearly and effectively requires learning some important skills. Whether you are trying to improve communication with your spouse, kids, boss, co-workers, learning these skills can deepen your connections to others, build greater trust and respect, and improve teamwork, problem solving, and your overall social and emotional health. Basically, in this, we have some also kind of tips, that is, communication is more than merely imparting meaning. It must also be understood. Fundamental definition of effective communication is when the intended message of the sender is correctly interpreted, understood, and acted upon by the recipient and listeners. Communication is the lifeblood of teams. No team or organization can exist without communication. That is, the transference of meaning among its team members. It's only through transmitting meaning from one person to another that information and ideas can be conveyed. This is the interpersonal communication cycle process. Here is in quotes. He or she will be a sender. Firstly, he will encode the message in your own level. Then he or she will be a receiver. And they both can do anything in their messages while decodes firstly, while encodes firstly. In this, we can easily assess that interpersonal communication is the process by which people exchange information, feeling, and meaning through face-to-face, and people receive messages through such forms of non-verbal behaviors. Basically, in this, we have a sender, receiver, message, channel, feedback, and noise. Because nowadays, process is very important to interpret with others. Firstly, we have a sender. So basically, sender is that kind of person in the communication process. He or she will be the individual who initiates a message and is also called the communicator or source of communication. The sender might be a speaker, a writer, or someone who merely gestures. In writing, though the response is delayed and relies more on the sender's reputation than image. Basically, sender is someone who caused something to be sent to a recipient. An example of a sender is the person who put a letter in the mailbox, also known as a source or a transmitter. A sender is a device that originates or generates an information transfer to one or more receivers. Next, message. Message is discrete unit of communication intended by the source for consumption by some recipient or group of recipients. A message may be delivered by various means, including courier, telegraphy, carrier pigeon and electronic bus, and interactive exchange of messages form a conservation. Message is also a short communication sent from one person to another of the central theme or idea of a communication. I'm giving you example here of the message in the communication. That message is what you leave for someone on an answering machine when you have tried to call him and he was not there. Next, channel. In a nutshell, communication channel are medium through which you can send a message to its intended audience, including phone calls, text messages, emails, video, radio, social media. All are types of communication channels. In a company, communication channels keep information flowing effectively. In today's world, communication channels are important element of administration activity in the organization. They provide abilities of power and control of superior as well as satisfaction and performance to subordinates. This has always been connected with leadership, management, and its performance. I'm giving you example here that a specific television or radio frequency channel is the English channel, sometimes channel is writing, and sometimes channel is a Fox News. Next is the receiver. Receiver is basically a listener, reader, observer, that is the individual to whom a message is direct. The receiver is also called the audience or decoder. Basically, the purpose of receiver is to preserve property or other assets of the parties subject to litigation in an effort to ensure an equitable outcome for all parties involved. Another function of a receiver is to protect a creditor from the risk of liabilities that may be incurred after taking over a property. So, what we have a primary communication skill. Primary communication skill basically verbal skill, listening skill, writing skill, technological communication skill, grooming and dress, social grace, body language, emotional IQ, that is. Because all these are transferable skills and they are interconnected. For example, good verbal skills require both listening and critical thinking skills to accurately process incoming information. They enable you to present your outgoing verbal messaging persuasively in light of the interest and sophistication of your audience so that it is understood and accepted. Develop effective skills in all 8 of the subsets that together comprise communication skills, and you will gain enormous control over what you can achieve, how you are perceived, and what happens in your life. Next, first we have the information skill. Informing skill basically providing information that will allow the person to make an informed decision. Basically, information is very important that if have no the informing skills that we can do anything. Informing is sharing of facts possessed by the funeral director. Informing is providing information that will allow the person to make an informed decision. In this, to convey the information through informing frequently, which cannot be conveyed by any other means. To enable the funeral director to communicate knowledge of customers related to that which is often a critical reason why people seek assistance. To provide the information that allows people to make informed choices or the clarity decision process. In the listening skills, the ability to articulate and express ideas and thoughts in the behalf of the sender. Informing people is an integral part of the funeral director's helping role. Next is the listening skills. Listening is the ability to accurately receive and interpret messages in the communication process. Listening is key to all effective communication. Effective listening is a skill that underpins all positive human relationships. We have some principles of the listening. That firstly, we have to stop talking, prepare yourself to listen, put the speaker at ease, remove distractions, empathize, be patient, avoid personal prejudice, listen to the tone, listen for ideas, not just words, and wait and watch for non-verbal communication. Basically, for the good listening skills, we have to discover your interests field, grasp and understands the matter and content, remain calm, don't lose your temper, anger hampers and inhibits communication because angry people jam their minds to the word of others. Be open to accept new ideas and information. Jot down and take a note of important points. Work upon listening. Analyze and evaluate the speech in spare time. Rephrase and summarize the speaker's ideas. Avoid distractions. Keep on asking questions. This demonstrates that how will you understand the speaker's ideas and also that you are listening. Step into the shoe of others, that is, put yourself in the position of the speaker and observe things from his viewpoint. This will help creating an atmosphere of mutual understanding and improve the exchange of ideas in communication process. In this, the ability of listen attentively and actively as the behalf of the receiver. The ability to express, read, interpret, and respond appropriately to non-verbal communication. Next, Margaret Waitley. She is a writer. Her experience said that listening is such a simple act. It requires to be present, and that takes practice, but we don't have to do anything else. We don't have to advise or coach or sound wise. We just have to be willing to sit there and listen. Basically, listening is very important because if we are good, then we can do anything. If we can easily understand that what the people who sit in front of us, what they are talking, then we can easily hear their skills. Next, interpersonal style. In the interpersonal style, we have a director, socializer, relator, and thinker. In the interpersonal style, firstly we have in the manner in which one communicates. It includes the way one interacts to create expectations for future behavior on the part of both participants. Communication is the transmission of information and meaning from one individual to another. According to this, we have 4 interpersonal styles, as I am explaining you firstly. In the context of the relator, warm and friendly, slow and easy, shares feeling, good listeners, and cooperative. Because relator can easily relate us. Next is the director. Emphasizes on results, little concerns for relationships, doesn't share feelings, seen as dominating and fast-paced and decisive. Basically, directors are controlled in their responsiveness and direct their approach to people and activities. Direct in their approach to people and activities. Expressive are open in their responsiveness and outgoing in their approach with people and activities. Next is relator. Basically, relator is that kind of person who easily relate their problems, their views, and their issues. Next, we have a socializer. In the socializer, relationships important, strong feelings of personal worth, fast-paced, enthusiastic and persuasive, and not afraid of risk. Socializers are expressive and spirited. They value relationships, acceptance, and personal prestige. These people are animated and expressive. They will often speak quickly, use gestures, and may get easily sidetracked onto another story altogether. Basically, to communicate with a socializer, you should talk in the enthusiastic and fast pace. Make sure you relate with them on social terms as much as professional terms. Even a few minutes chatting at the water cooler can make all the differences. Next, we have a thinker. So basically, in the context of thinker, an efficient, perfectionist, slow and cautious, task-oriented, follows directions, and works well alone. Basically, these interpersonal styles are very important to persuade ourselves, and in this we can easily inform the people that what are doing and how we can easily and effective communicate can do with others. Next, communication improvement strategies. So communication improvement strategies, in this we can easily help the people that how we can easily build us for this. In this, practice active listening. Effective communicators are always good listeners. Focus on non-verbal communication. Manage your own emotions. Ask for feedback. Practice public speaking. Develop a filter. Keep it real. When delivering your message, be truthful and as complete as possible. Be timely. Don't wait until you have all the information to deliver a message. Focus on consistency. Tailor your message. Reinforce it. Encourage feedback and empower your managers. In this, we can also indulge that communication plan what you want to say and how you will say it. Use multiple channels and mediums. Tailor the message to the audience. Use clear, simple, and understandable language. Empathize with others. Remember the value of face-to-face communication when dealing with change. We have to use two-way communication. Practice active listening. Match your words and actions. Ask for feedback questions to confirm understanding. Use the grapevine as a source of employee issue. Use feedback and use assertive communication. While following these points, we can easily improve our communication strategies. Because communication is a very effective impact while we are talking with someone and he or she can easily attract towards us. While we are conducting interview, while we are shooting the ads, or while we are generally talking with someone. So we have some barriers to effective communication. In the barriers, because all these things we can easily that barriers all are always similar their communication. Dissatisfaction or disinterest with one's job, inability to listen to others, lack of transparency and trust, communication styles, conflict in the workplace, cultural differences and languages, physical barrier, perceptual barrier, emotional barrier, cultural barrier, language barrier, gender barrier, interpersonal barrier, withdrawal, taking too much, lack of eye contact, and information overload and lack of focus. Our first is interpersonal barrier. Interpersonal barrier basically that kind of barrier are the ones present outside an individual's own self. In the external environment between the sender and receiver of the message and are relatively outside the individual's control. Poor self-esteem, social anxiety, and other issues can make it difficult for people to feel comfortably opening up to others, which hurts their ability to communicate feelings accurately to others as well as their ability to interpret others. In this, we have to overcome interpersonal barrier. We should use simple words to convey the message. To have an effective process of interpersonal communication, you have to simplify language, learn the art of learning, keep composure while communicating, and provide constructive criticism. Basically, interpersonal barrier refers to the elements within the individual's own self which pose a hurdle from within the individual's communication, both in sending and receiving messages. Good thing is, these barriers are within the individual control. Thus, individuals may deal with them and overcome them on their own. Next is the intrapersonal barrier. Intrapersonal barrier refers to the elements within the individual's own self which pose a hurdle from with the individual communication both in sending and receiving message. Good thing is these barriers are within the individual's control. I'm giving you an example that intrapersonal skills include attributes such as the plantfulness, self-discipline, delay of gratification, the ability to deal with and overcome distractions, and the ability to adjust one strategy or approach as needed. We have to use self-confidence, resilience, self-discipline, persistence, openness to new ideas, the ability to overcome distractions, and time management. Next, we have a structural barrier. Structural barrier basically are obstacles that collectively affects a group disproportionality and perpetuate or maintain stark disparities in outcomes. Structural barrier can be policies, practices, and other norms that favor an advantaged group while systematically disadvantaging a marginalized group. Structural barrier include highways, fences, walls, gates, and other type of construction that prohibit or inhibit access. They do, however, make it more difficult for unauthorized persons to gain access. Barriers of this type are also known as the structural barrier. All these affect the free flow of communication in organization unless suitably managed. Superior subordinate relationships in a formal organizational structure inhibit free flow of communication. Next, we have a physical barrier. Physical barrier basically that kind of barrier described as structural obstructions in both human-made and natural environments that block effective communication so that messages cannot be sent from the sender to the receiver. Some of the physical barriers are noise, technical problems, and organizational environment. The major environmental and physical barriers are time, place, space, climate, and noise. Some of them are easy to alter, whereas some may prove to be tough obstacles in the process of effective communication. Most of us are familiar with the most common barrier to a regular physical activity routine: the lack of time, work, family obligations, and other realities of daily life often get in the way of our best intentions to be more active. Next, we have a technological barrier. Technological barrier basically that kind of barrier where limited access to useful, relevant, and appropriate hardware and software, especially in instances where the use of the technology is perceived as not being sufficient to perform the task or accomplish the objectives for which the technology was initially utilized. I'm giving you an example here of the technological barrier, that is language barrier, integration problems, disruption concerns, training of employee, and coping with emerging technology. Next is the environmental barrier. Environmental barrier basically often limit to prevent a person with a disability from fully participating in social, occupational, and recreational activities. For a wheelchair user, environmental barriers may include stairs, narrow doorways, heavy doors, or high countertops. Basically, like poor lighting, too much noise, crowds, it also includes things in nature like cold temperature, too much rain, steep hills, etc. The attitudes of people in their own homes or families. Next, defining the non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication basically are that kind of communication where we can't use the words. Non-verbal communication is the transmission of messages or signals through a non-verbal platforms such as eye contact, facial expressions, gesture, posture, and body language. Some scholars state that most people trust form of non-verbal communication over verbal communication. Non-verbal communication. The study of non-verbal communication stated in 1872 with the publication of The Expression of the Emotion in Man and Animals by Charles Darwin. Non-verbal communication involves the conscious and unconscious processes of encoding and decoding. Encoding is defined as our ability to express emotions in a way that can be accurately interpreted by the receiver. Decoding is called nonverbal sensitivity, defined as the ability to take these encoded emotions and interpret its meaning accurately to what the sender intended basically. Encoding in the act of generating information such as facial expressions, gestures, and postures. Encoding information utilize signals which we may think to be universal. Nonverbal communication is usually understood as the process of communicating through sending and receiving wordless cues between people. Face-to-face interaction, nonverbal communication can be classified into three principal areas. That is environmental conditions, where communication takes place, physical characteristics of the communicators, behaviors of communicators during interactions. Basically, comparison components of the nonverbal communication is in the whole day, we are using words just as a 7%, using voice tones 38% and physiology is the 55%. 88% of the whole day in 24 hours, we just talk with ourselves and using non-verbal communication. Components of non-verbal communication or body language is this.
क्या हुआ शायद मैम नहीं है?
नहीं है।
शायद
हेलो। 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 हेलो मनीष भाई।
संगीत है।
क्या हुआ बोलो।
बोलो।
क्या
काहे लड़की जैसा बोल रहा है भाई तू?
अरे यार आवाज
लड़की बनने का शौक है का?
तुमको होगा बनने का शौक, हम नहीं बनते।
तो चूमा मत दे दोगे एगो तब लड़की बनने का। हाँ आ रहे हैं 2 मिनट में। हेलो
बेवकूफ, तुम बेवकूफ हो।
एकदम भाई, हम ना बोलेंगे तो बीचाओ में कोई बोलबे नहीं करता। सोचते हैं जाना तो हम रहते हैं, थोड़ा सा मनोरंजन रहता है, लेकिन सोचते हैं जाना तो साले लोग सब आकर दिखाता है तो रहने दो, नो टेंशन।
अच्छा
इसलिए
अकड़
कुछ
तुम
बोलते बोलते
दिखाते हो,
नहीं है।
अकड़ तुम दिखाते हो।
आकर तो मुझ में एकदम कूट कूट के भरा है, ये तो है ही है।
हाँ तो पता है, दिख
तेरे
भी रहा है।
लिए का
ज्यादा गाना मत गाओ।
गाना गाना कोई शौक नहीं है भाई। तुम्हें गाना कहीं सुनाएंगे? सुनाएंगे तो अपने गर्लफ्रेंड को ना सुनाएंगे। खुशबू हेलो।
हाँ
तुम
बोलो।
तो, हमें तो लग रहा है कि तुम क्लास ज्वाइन करके सो गई हो।
अरे नहीं सोए हैं, हम सुन रहे हैं, मैं बोल रहा हूँ।
ओ,
रिकॉर्डिंग
हम
स्टार्ट
नहीं
है,
बोलते हैं तो
रिकॉर्डिंग।
पूरा साइलेंट रहता क्लास, अब देखते हो ना। अच्छा भाई खुशबू बताओ, तुम है मेरे में ज्यादा एटीट्यूड भरा है, काहे लिए ऐसे बोल रहा है सब, देख रही हो खुशबू?
तुम अपने अपने से ज्यादा मतलब रखते हो, इसलिए सब बोलते हैं कि तुम्हारे तो सबके साथ अच्छे हो रहो, अच्छे से बिहेव करो, तो ऐसा कोई नहीं बोलेगा।
अरे मैं तुम्हारा सुनाई नहीं दे रहा है, मतलब कहाँ बोल रही सर, धीरे धीरे बोलो।
साफ से
बोल
बोलो,
रहे
आराम से
हैं
बोलो।
हाँ बोलो।
कि तुम अपने अपने में ज्यादा बिजी रहते हो, इसलिए सब बोलते हैं कि तुम्हारे अंदर एटीट्यूड है। अगर तुम सबके साथ फ्रेंडली बिहेव करोगे तो सबको ऐसा नहीं लगेगा।
अच्छा ये बताओ, सब लोग अपने काम में बिजी रहेंगे तो अपना काम करना बुरी बात है हो?
हम्म,
अपना अपना काम करो, क्या करोगे?
हाँ,
खुशबू
काम
तो
तो करना
दिन
चाहिए।
टीवी देखने
कैसा
में बिजी
है
रहती है क्या?
मम्मी?
तूने मेरी आज धर
अरे हाँ, क्या हो गया?
लगता है साला बारिश होगा। अरे मैम के फोन करो ना, कहाँ हो गया मैम, कहाँ चली गई?
पावर कट हो गया तो कहाँ जाएगी?
हाँ?
पावर कट हो गया है गले में।
ओ,
कैसा है?
हाँ भाई बोलो।
ऑन कर।
क्या? हेलो हेलो,
हाँ बोलो।
क्या हुआ बोलो।
वीडियो ऑन
कौन
करो।
बीच में बोल रहा है, कौन बीच में बोल रहा है इतना पतला आवाज में? ये कौन लड़की है? कोई तो नहीं है पहचाना पहचाना हुआ।
तुम लोग अपने दोस्तों को भूल गए, कैसे हो तुम लोग? गंदे कहेंगे, अपने दोस्तों को भूल जाते हो।
अच्छा
पहचानो पहचानो, कौन है?
अच्छे से बोलो, अच्छे से आवाज नहीं आ रही है।
पहचानो पहचानो, कौन है?
क्या?
हम कौन है, बताओ बताओ।
आ हेलो,
हम कौन है, बताओ बताओ।
क्या?
तुम मेरे दोस्त नहीं हो, तुम तो मुझे पहचान ही नहीं हो।
खुशबू बिल्ली की तरह क्यों बोल रही हो?
मुझे तो समझ में आपको नहीं आ रहा है।
मैं तुम पागल हो गए, मैं थोड़ी लो हद है।
यही है।
ए दिमाग खराब है क्या? मेरी आवाज देखो।
हाँ हम समझ रहे हैं, ज्यादा मिमिक्री मत करो।
खुशबू कौन है? हमको भी बताओ, मिला इससे। कौन है खुशबू? अरे नहीं बताओ कौन है?
लग रहा है अब नहीं हो
भाई इसको
पाएगा, मैं नहीं
समझाओ कुछ।
आएंगे।
कौन बोल रहा है इसे?
पता नहीं, खुशबू के साइड से आवाज आ रहा है।
कौन है
बोलने बोलो,
खुशबू?
साफ से बोलने के लिए बोलो, थोड़ा अच्छा भी लगे।
कौन खुशबू?
अरे
कौन
खुशबू,
है खुशबू?
हेलो, कॉल करो ना मैम के पास।
बाय बाय होते हैं बताता। कोई मेरे से बात नहीं कर रहा।
ये लग रहा कोई
हम
बच्ची है।
बाय बाय, मुझे बात नहीं कर रहा।
बच्ची है बच्ची। नवनीत भाई हेलो।
हाँ बोलो। पता नहीं खुशबू के
समझाओ
साइड से
यार,
कौन बोल
क्या
रहा है।
बात कर रहा है झूठ मूठ से, कोई फायदा नहीं है।
खुशबू नहीं बोल रहा, कोई बच्चा बोल रहा है।
नहीं वही है।
है खुशबू?
हाँ
कोई बच्चा बोल रहा है उसके साइड से। वीडियो ऑन करो।
हेलो
मम्मा
कैसे हैं आप?
ठीक हूँ।
और क्या कर रहे हैं आप लोग?
पढ़ रहे हैं हम लोग।
क्या कर रहे हैं आप लोग?
हम लोग खाना खा रहे हैं।
ABCD।
तुम्हें भी खाना है?
ABCD अभी तक पढ़ रहे हैं। मैंने तो पढ़ लिया ABCD।
हम लोग बच्चे हैं ना, इसलिए अभी लोग पढ़ रहे हैं।
तो आप लोग बच्चे हैं।
तुम बड़ी हो गई हो।
और
देखिए बोले ना वही है,
और बताओ।
आवाज चाप के बोल
और,
रही है।
हेलो,
हम्म,
तो कैसा लगा? मजा आया?
नहीं
बकवास।
काम मजा आ रहा है। ऑन करो वीडियो।
बकवास बोला ना? अब तो मैं लीव कर रही हूँ क्लास को। बाय बाय।
कर दो।
कोई बात नहीं, कर जाओ।
हाँ बहुत गंदा है, मैंने सब बात नहीं करूंगी।
मैम आएंगी तब ना पूछेंगे उसको कहा तो लोग बता।
साहिब गंदा है।
अच्छा इतना आवाज चाप के बोलने की क्या जरूरत थी? कुछ समझ में भी नहीं आ रहा है। भाग दो।
लो,
चली गई चली गई।
जाने। कब तक वेट किया जाए?
कॉल करो ना मैम के पास। ये रिकॉर्डिंग ऑन है क्या?
रिकॉर्डिंग ऑन है।
बंद कर दे।
नहीं मैम ऑन करके आएंगे।
बड़ा मजा आ रहा था बोल के, बहुत
रुक जाओ,
सुकून मिला।
हाँ
नवनीत
बिल्ली
को
के जैसे तो बोल रही थी।
होस्ट बना रहे, ठीक है।
लग रहा था ना कोई बिल्ली बोल रही है।
लो भाई तुम होस्ट बन गया हो, तो करना है बोलते रहो।
अब कौन बिल्ली बोल रही थी हमें तो पता नहीं था।
बिल्ली नहीं थी, बिल्ला बिल्ला है।
तुम लोग कॉलेज में बहुत बताते हैं तुमको।
कॉलेज में
कॉलेज
आएगा
के
तो
में दूसरी बात बताएगी।
कॉलेज में आके कुछ नहीं होगा।
सही ठीक है।
है
बहुत
ठीक
बेकार
है
का
सब।
खुशबू आ रहा है। बहुत बेकार खुशबू आ रहा है। खुशबू अच्छा नहीं आ रहा है। जानते हो शायद बहुत बेकार खुशबू आ रहा है।
कैसे?
बाय बाय, 4 बज गए यार, अब कौन सा
नहीं,
मैम
कोई नहीं जाएगा, कोई नहीं जाएगा।
बहुत बेकार खुशबू आ रहा
है?
है। नहीं ये खुशबू कहाँ से आ रहा है? और मीट हो गए शहीद।
हाँ भाई। क्या हुआ? गर्मी लग रहा है क्या? फैन चल रहा है?
नहीं ऑफिस में है।
किस चीज का ऑफिस?
एडमिशन का ऑफिस।
एडमिशन का ऑफिस?
एडमिशन कराते हैं ना। ऑफिस है ना खुद का।
ऑफिस कर दिया क्या पूरा?
हाँ देखो ना हम
हम्म।
सर का ही तो होते
हाँ ये तो मेरे पास भी है।
तो होता है। देखो इसका डायरी रखा हुआ बहुत सारा जो मैम लेके पढ़ाती है।
हम्म। क्लास नहीं होगा क्या? अभी तक पावर नहीं आया?
फोन कितना टाइम है? 4 तो बज ही गया।
चुप हो गई खुशबू क्यों? हेलो।
बहुत ही बेकार खुशबू आ रहा है ना इसलिए चुप हो गया।
ऐसा बात है। हेलो।
बोलो।
क्या अब नहीं होगा क्लास?
पता
चले
नहीं।
जाते, कॉल करो ना मैम के पास।
करो
खुशबू को बोलो करने के लिए।
करो तो खुशबू फोन।
नहीं बोलेगी अब। उस टाइम बिल्ली की तरह ठीक चिल्ला रही थी।
खुशबू अच्छा नहीं
तू
रहा।
भी चिल्ला ले भाई, तू भी चिल्ला ले, चिल्लाना नहीं आता है तुम्हें? चिल्ला लो ना। कभी सब पक
चुप
पक
रहो
पक पक
आए।
बोलते हैं।
तुम भी
पक्का
तो
पक्का
पकपक
बोल
करने लगते हो।
लार बका बका बोलते हो कभी से। क्लास करने आए, क्लास करो फिर जब निकलो ना से।
तो तुम बकबक कर लिए अच्छा लगा?
क्लास करो फिर जब निकलो इसमें से, बका बका करना कैसे?
खुशबू अच्छा नहीं आ रहा है इसलिए।
दिल
क्या हुआ तुमको अनिश भाई?
हमें कुछ ना हुआ, लड़ा होगा।
आए?
कुछ ना हो बस मस्ती।
क्या मस्ती?
तुम लोगों जैसा राज नहीं है बस। हम लोग
अच्छा,
गरीब दुखी आदमी हैं, कैसे भी करते मस्ती। तुम लोग ऐसा नहीं ना करते, आराम से हम लोग काम धंधा रहता है ना।
जैसा काम धंधा था वो गरीब है ना।
एकदम श्योर 100%।
ओ अच्छी बात है, तो हम लोग मतलब रिच मैन है।
लगता है तुम्हें नहीं?
तो लग रहा है।
राजा बाबा फिर रहता है, आराम से बैठ कर बकचोदी करता है। का काम में क्या है उसके सीमा?
तुम्हारा सोच ही गलत है, ठीक है।
कहने जिसके पास कोई
हाँ,
काम धंधा नहीं रहेगा, बैठ कर बकचोदी ना करेगा।
तुम्हारा सोच गलत है।
मेरा सोच? मुझे तो नहीं
हाँ,
लगता बॉस
इसके अलावा
कि मेरा
इसके अलावा
सोच
कुछ नहीं
गलत।
बोल सकते हम। ठीक है।
इंसान का सोच गलत नहीं होता है।
वो तभी मैम लीव करने वाली उन्हें पता ना।
मुझे बारिश
एडवांस चेक करनी है यहाँ का चलता है कि ना। एडवांस हमका हमरा के भेज दी। हाँ, ना आज ले लेंगे हम, लेके लगा देंगे।
झूठों के सपना।
हाँ यही दिक्कत।
क्लास होगा नहीं है, फालतू में झूठों के।
क्या कीजिएगा, बहुत कमीने टाइप के लोग हैं। टाइम पे पैसा दे दो। कैसा ये क्या हुआ?
क्या कुछ नहीं होगा।
लगता है मैम नहीं आएंगे।
काहे बेचारा शांत है भाई, बोल ना, नो प्रॉब्लम, कोई दिक्कत नहीं, बोलते रहो।
तुमको तकलीफ होता है ना, बोलते तो।
नहीं, मनोरंजन करते रहो, हमसे कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, हमको क्या दिक्कत, मनोरंजन करते रहो।
हम बोलने लगे तुमको तकलीफ होने लगा, इसलिए बंद कर दिए।
हम किसी को बोलने तुम्हें तकलीफ नहीं होता।
तकलीफ होता ना, बंद कर दिए हम।
हम थोड़ा सीरियस वाला बात बोलते हैं तो थोड़ा सा लोगों को लग जाता है, और कुछ
सीरियस
नहीं।
वाली बात नहीं था यार, ठीक है। तुमको तकलीफ हुआ इसलिए हम बंद कर दिए।
मतलब हम तकलीफ खाएंगे हुआ किसी से? अब बताओ, तकलीफ होने कोई रीजन?
जैसे भी हो ठीक है, हमको
लग
ज्यादा
रहा है मेरी गर्लफ्रेंड है कि मुझे तकलीफ होगा, ऐसा कुछ है? तकलीफ
नहीं
क्यों होगा भाई, तुम बोलो ना, प्रॉब्लम।
अब तुम जानो ना।
नहीं भाई।
नवनीत भाई हेलो, इसको समझाओ यार।
हमको कोई क्या समझाएगा, बस समझदार है, बेवकूफ ना है। अब तुम्हें समझना है तो उससे गाइड लिया करो, ठीक है? जिस तुम्हें समझ नहीं आ रहा है कुछ तो तुम गाइड लिया करो।
अच्छा,
यहाँ पे सब लोग गाइड लेके ही रहते हैं, सब लोग समझदार हैं।
बिना गाइड के कहीं नहीं पहुंच सकता कोई भी, थोड़ा बहुत किसी को पड़ता है।
फोन आया था मृत्युंजय, कब तक आएगा? बहन से मूड खराब कर रहे हो, कब तक आएगा? जाना था, काम था बाहर।
शहीद लग रहा है मैम नहीं आएंगे।
कॉल करते रुक जाओ।
करो।
तुम्हें
हेलो
क्या मैम, क्लास नहीं होगा क्या?
हेलो, हाँ जी बेटे।
क्लास नहीं होगा
देखिए बच्चे, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी नहीं आ रही है।
तो तब हम लोग लीव कर ले मैम।
हाँ हाँ, आप लीव कर दो, ठीक है।
ओके ओके,
ओके बच्चे।
क्लास नहीं होगा, लीव कर लो सब लोग।
ठीक है,
खुशबू लीव कर लो, क्लास नहीं होगा। शाहिद लीव कर लो।